Hello guys. I want to take a minute today to talk about a subject that has been on my mind for a little while. It's the subject of reflector versus optics. TIR, okay? TIR optics, total internal reflection. So, as with any reflector light, you have a reflector that puts out a conventional beam, okay? A hot spot, a corona, the immediate light around the hot spot, and the spill. This is not quite conventional, but still a reflector light with 4 individual overlapping reflector wells that also makes a hot spot, some corona around it, and spill beam. And the only non-conventional thing about the beam is it has petals effects around the edges of the spill beam. On an optical light, however, on a light with optics, however, you get just all lumen in one large hot spot, and that's the main attraction of this light. Check this out. On paper, if someone to purchase, before I move on, this is the MT18VN. This is the X45VN. The X45VN has a shorter 4x18650 carrier. If you're wondering why it's so long and big, it's because it has the X65 battery handled. And then that's the cool thing about Ace Beam. All the X series body can mix and match, okay? You can actually Lego them. This is a personal light, and I like to carry this light with the extended runtime of the X65 battery pack. Okay, got that out of the way. This light right here, with the battery pack of the original 4x18650 carrier, will put out about 25,000 lumen, okay? With my mods, obviously, and driver VNX2. The MT18 with driver VNX2 puts out 16,000 lumen. So clearly, the lumen out the front, 25,000, 16,000. Clearly brighter on the X45VN. X45VN puts out 150 kcd, okay, of intensity. The MT18VN puts out 130 kcd. Quite a bit less also, so 130 versus 150. 16,000 versus 25,000. Clearly, the X45VN is in another league in terms of performance on paper. However, during practice and during real use, I found the MT18 just more desirable to use and actually has a more effective beam. The reason is because in a reflector light, unless you use the light really up close, then the peripheral vision really means a lot to you in the spill. But if you're gonna use the light at any great distance, maybe 50 meters, all you're really gonna care about is the hot spot and the corona around it, if it even has any that's worth mentioning at that distance. So really, all you're really looking at is the hot spot, and how much is in the hot spot? 30%? And what's 30% of 25,000 lumen? You know, not that much. So 8,000 lumen. However, on this light, when you have a large hotspot, all of the output in the hotspot, exactly where you're looking, and the hotspot is huge, okay? You get all 16,000 lumen. That's all of the output, everything that is made into the hotspot exactly where you're looking. So, yeah, 16,000 lumen exactly where you're looking is more impressive than 25,000 lumen with like 2/3 of it somewhere else, and you only actually care about 1/3 at a distance. So I have great interest in total internal reflection optics type of light, okay? So that put me on a quest to build a variety of lights in the past that uses optics instead of reflectors, so that to put a lot of lumen that throws well and downrange and is not wasted anywhere. Because the thing is, with TIR lights, TIRs themselves are not very efficient with out the front lumen. So I'm not exactly sure what the loss is from, I would need to calculate from LED lumen and the exact and out the front lumen, but they're not very efficient. There's a great amount of loss through the optics. The good news is though, the amount of lumen that actually makes it out the front are actually efficient in a way that it's where you're looking at. So that's the reason why I've been on a quest to build quite a bit of lights actually that uses optics, and with the goal of putting the light where you're looking at. Okay, here, this is the Solace. Before this light, I put out quite a few custom, semi-custom lights that uses a ton of optics. This is my latest iterations of such a design. This is called the Solace. Solace is the sun. Okay. This is an X65EN. You can see here the head size different. X45EN, X65EN both shares the same battery pack. This one has a hypershift purple, green, Cerakote. All right. Battery pack completely redone with VTC's VTC5A unprotected cells. Has a ton of triples in here. I use triples because triples throw a little bit better than quads, and I can cramp a ton in. Sits on a huge chunk of aluminum heatsink. There's 48 XPL-HI total, and it runs on a very special circuit called Scylla with 6 FETs on it. Okay, very powerful circuit developed primarily for this light. So as it stands, this light right here puts out about 35,000 lumen and 400 kcd. Whew, not too long ago, 400 kcd is like you could only get something like that from a dedicated thrower, say the K40VN, which I sold hundreds of, and that light puts out 400 kcd, about there, okay? And that was a dedicated thrower at the time. This thing here puts out 30, and that light puts out what, 1,500 lumen? This thing puts out 35,000 lumen, okay? And 400 kcd. So now you get, which makes this a legitimate thrower, because 400 kcd, who's gonna say a 400 kcd light is a floodlight? But yet this is a floodlight that does 400 kcd. So it's just crazy, and that was achieved with optics. Okay. I've made brighter lights, much brighter lights. I've made lights that hits 100,000 lumen with a ton of with 28 XHP70s, but the thing is, if it doesn't go anywhere, it's just a flood meal. So here you have 35,000 lumen all in a single hotspot. So that's the main attraction of this light. And honestly, aside from the crazy price that this light is at, I feel like this is the Grail of all this light on Sky Lumen right now that you can buy. It's just, you know, a lot of output exactly where you're looking. So my goal to step this up a notch is to build the to utilize the BOF GT host. Okay, one second. This is the BOF GT head. You can see here it's clearly larger than X65 head. The advantage of this light is you can run it with individual carrier, so very easy of changing out the cell. This I have to rebuild the battery pack, so it's lots of work. Here you have an individual carrier. Yes, you have to configure the carrier to fit, but you can run it with 8 times 18650 or just 4. Very convenient, very versatile, and look at how big that head is. That means there's massive room for heat sinking. Several times in the past, I've made P60 drop-in with XHP35 LED, XHP35HI LEDs instead of XPL-HI. XPL-HI tops out at about 1,400 lumen max. XHP35HI puts out about 1,000 lumen more, so maybe 2,500 lumen. So that is a good substantial increase in output from one LED to another. The only bad news is it takes, if you put 4 XHP35HIs in here running 16 volt, it's just really hot, because it's just, you pushing, what, like over 2,000 lumen per LED, so that's like 8,000 lumen at the LED, all cramped together. Yes, that's gonna be a lot of heat, right? And with the optics on it, it will give decent throw as well, but that's just a lot of heat, and it didn't work very well in a P60 tiny amount of heat sinking on the even with a copper heat sink like the P60VN. And I even tried to solder solder bond the MCPCBs to the heatsink. It just doesn't have enough mass. The light gets too hot way too fast, and the head of a P60 light, how big can it get? Even on a light like the Gladiator VN, it's just not enough size to heatsink. So we need more mass, right? And I thought about it. I thought about it really hard, and I was going to build the Solace with the HP35HI, but even that gets hot too fast, and it's just a lot of variables, okay? So XPLHI at the time, with the circuitry that was available at the time, it was just, XPLHI was the LED of choice, okay? However, I've recently working on another project called Sirius. Sirius, the brightest star during the night on Earth. Okay, so at night if you go out, the brightest star you see in the sky, that's Sirius. And that's the name I'm giving for my next project. And this project, I'm utilizing the BLF GT head. So, Solace has 48 XPLHI, okay? The goal of Sirius is to have 72 XHP35HI, and this is gonna be the Grail light of Sky Lumen, I guess. It's a lot of work, a lot of thinking. I thought about this quite hard, and I really want to build this light with XHP35HI because I feel like it needs that extra punch with all the extra LED. And this head being as massive as it is, I can put in so much heat sinking in here. This head itself weighs probably 4 pounds already. The normal light loaded with battery weighs 5 pounds. I can't imagine how heavy this light would be when it's fully done. And I think every ounce of mass in this light is gonna be put to use. So here we have 72 XHP35HI. The goal, I don't know, I hope to get 75, 80,000 lumen and all of that output in one large hotspot. Can you imagine? So here we have 35. If this can double the amount of double the output to 70, that's a win already, okay? But if we can hit like 80 or 100, wow, okay, unbelievable. I think it might be able to. We don't know, but the goal is maybe 75,000 lumen and a lot of output. If that thing right here, if the Solace puts out 400 KCD, I'm really, really hoping for 500, 600 KCD. That would make this a crazy thrower that floods, right? You're gonna get a massive large hotspot that really, really throws the kind of light that will light up a soccer field, okay? This massive heat sinking right here gets handmade, obviously. This is a really rough design. It needs to be cleaned up. There is several things about this light that is going to be kind of a step up in terms of design versus the old Solace light. So let me talk about that a little bit. Solace, every single MCPCBs are thermal adhere to the body of the light, and then the wires run around and goes down the center. And that's okay, it works so far. But if you really want excellent heat sinking, you gotta remove that thermal adhesive layer completely, okay? So here's the plan. You see here, I tapped, I forgot how many, I think there's 18, I'm not sure. Let's count it together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. All right, so there's 18 quads boards on here, and all of them has an individual screws that holds them down. So that is the key to heat sinking for this light, all right? And on top of that, if one group of LED were to go bad, it would be easily repairable. I would just unscrew, desolder, remove the LED. If there are new LEDs in the market in the future, like XHP35 V2 or something, right? XHP35-2, whatever, the new version, hopefully with the same footprint, we can slap it on here and get more performance just like that. And it will be a relatively cheap 72 LEDs. I don't know how cheap that would be, but relatively cheap versus buying a new light. The point is, the light is not set in stone. You can upgrade it in the future, okay? And look at this. This whole entire massive heat sinking is now screwed down. Before, I kind of have I built my own little rivet where I rivet the heat sink down to the body of the light. This time, I just screw it with 2 giant screws that holds it down, and then thermal I adhere the heat sink to the body of the light. So it's just really, the heat sink itself is really nicely built, and it's going to heat sink out to the body of the light very well also. So, in terms of heat sinking, we have those screws, holds down the MC PCBs, relieve heats, excellent, easy repair. And then, I think for the first time ever, I'm gonna cool down the circuitry by direct copper mounting. So what that, in simple terms, I don't have Scylla here to show you guys, but Scylla is basically a driver. It's basically 6 times driver via the normal 17mm driver VNX2. Okay, there's 6 FETs on them. And FETs makes the MOSFET on them, makes a lot of heat. So, how about, I was sitting there one day just thinking, how do I draw the heat out of the circuit efficiently? Because if the circuit is mounted to the body, yeah, the body draws out the heat, but you have to eliminate the immediate bottleneck. Same goes with the LED. Why do we mount LEDs into copper heat sinks? To eliminate the bottleneck, right? So, the LED takes the heat out to the copper sinking to a larger surface area, and that surface area can sit on anything. So this entire chunk of metal right here, heat sink right here, if it's made out of copper or whatever other material, it's not going to matter as much as the copper MC PCBs. The reason is because if you change this to copper, it's going to make it extremely heavy, and you increase more capacity, heat capacity due to mass. But really, the key to that peak performance is actually the copper MCP itself, because that's the bottleneck. And the bottleneck of the driver, you have the body of the light to heat sink heat out of the driver, but you need to get rid of the heat immediately from, especially at turn on, where there's an immense amount of power being withdrawn, is to withdraw the power, the heat from the MOSFET. And the easiest way to do that, I sat there, I thought about it, I was like, thermal cube is not gonna cut it. I can solder pot everything, but that's not gonna cut it. So I thought of a way that I think might work for our case, all right? I'm gonna specifically hand machined a specific size and as thick as possible, maybe 2-3 ounce copper slug, and cut it just so that it fit exactly on the light, and then thermal adhesive adhere it to the MOSFET itself, and it should just basically adding a chunk of copper on top of the circuitry, simply put, right? To pull out the heat as fast as it can right where the bottleneck is, so it stores that heat, increase the heat capacity so that it draws out to the body of the light. And the user interface. I would like to have, see, this is the part I really want to talk about, but I think I should hold back. We'll hold back, okay? We'll hold back on talking about the user interface because we'll talk about it when we have the LEDs in here, all the beams in here, and then we'll have the testing prototype where I'll have photos and beam shots of everything, and then we'll decide on the programming. Okay, we'll talk about that. But so far, I think this project will work. It's gonna need a lot more fine-tuning and a lot more testing. But it's cool because it's gonna really step up this light a notch, okay? In my opinion, there is no way, without going optics, without having this type of design right here, there's just no way you're gonna get, for now, that I can think of, with Reflector, where you can get 75, 100,000 lumen, and 600 KCD all blend in, okay? Because we're not talking about 25,000. When we're talking about 75,000 lumen here, 3 times what this thing can do. And you want to put all 600 KCD on a hot spot, because if you're going to build a light with a ton of LED with really short shadow reflector to put out lots of output, 100,000 lumen, how much lux are you going to get? How much intensity are you going to get? 200, 300, max 400. You ain't going to hit 600, 700, at least not something I can think of. Optics-wise, that can be done. And we're not wasting any output on the peripheral vision when we don't really care about we have a large hotspot. That's plenty to scan an area, plenty to spot. So that's the plan. That's the plan. The plan is to make something like this, an MT18 VN, okay? But in a massive scale, okay? And with the design of what I've been presenting, I hope it will work. So wish me a lot of luck. We'll see how this goes the next time I make a video. If I don't make another video on the Sirius, I've miserably failed, okay? If I make another video, hopefully it'll be a beam shot video, or a video at least showing you with the optics and the LEDs in, and maybe a big external power supply out here to take a beam shot or something, okay? It'll be good news if you see another video on Sirius. Alright, so I'm serious about this, and I'm glad it's named Sirius, alright? Thank you guys.